Well, I mean, we can go ahead and start talking about the discussion, and just you and I can bounce back some things. Um,
Sure, I'm down.
okay. So, I mean, obviously this was a spiritual discussion, but it's always going to reflect to everything spiritual is going to reflect to day to day lives and our surroundings. But, I just want to kind of lay down, what at least what I see as spiritual refinement um, within ourselves. And it's a process. It's basically growing closer to the divine, um, becoming our light bodies, and developing a more refined inner life. Um, it can be perceived as a time when living or being within that divine, uh, it can be perceived as kind of pruning away those areas of our life that that aren't that aren't beneficial to us anymore. Which also, those things that aren't beneficial are what are going to create limitations. So it gives us strength, um, builds different characteristics within ourselves, brings spiritual awareness, which also enheightens our gifts. So, like as we go through these processes of shadow work and even just spiritual practices of, in a sense, reprogramming the mind, which is refining us to be a more enlightened being itself. So that's kind of, the basics of my understanding of it. And I mean, do you have anything to add to that portion? And I would like to just talk about our individual experiences of how we have been refining ourselves recently, and even just from the beginning of our awareness of our spiritual selves. Mike, yours.
Okay, well, I kind of put it this way, right? If we look at our brain as a computer, right? So when we come into this world, we're flooded with a lot of programming, right? Some of it's good, some of it's bad. And as we come to this understanding that, you know, there's more to than just what we were taught and what we were shown, right? We start seeking that knowledge and getting to know ourselves, right? Really going within, right? That's when you begin to recognize those behaviors, those things that don't work anymore, all those things, and the things that do work and the things that do make sense. And as you're doing that, you're refining yourself, you know, and it takes work and it takes practice and it takes intention and all this stuff. But over time, you can slowly reprogram it, reprogram your thinking and the way you look at things so that it becomes easier. So it's like new programming so that the computer runs smoother or the brain runs smoother. So this way you have more time to focus your energy in other things that are more beneficial and will help you grow as a spiritual person and as the person not that you were always meant to become, that you always were, you just didn't realize you were, right? We fall under this illusion that we have to become something. We don't have to become anything. We've always were who we were. We were just told we weren't who we were, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's in a sense it's going back to so even when you look at ascension process, raising in dimensions, it's it's a different level of energy, and it's so from our experience, we would think that to these what people perceive as a low vibrational thoughts, and the reason why they say that, because that's how they experience it. For instance, that's how I experience it. When I'm in a depression state of mind, I have very little energy no matter what I do, as far as intake of food, coffee, whatever it might be. And it's because of the repetitive thoughts that are happening. So being able to perceive that, and I don't have, I don't live in those thoughts anymore, but when I reflect back, we have to reflect back on a lot of things that we've been through, even up to today, because it brings a whole nother meaning in what we know today compared to when we reflect 10 years ago. So it's nice to reflect back on every aspect of our life that we've had, everything that we've done shadow work on before. See it in the light that we sit in today, and see what lessons we gain from it, because we gain them from every experience. So the refinement, like you said, the reprogramming, that could be reprogramming from what we consider as a matrix, or deconstructing from, it might be a religion that created traumas. Before you could, you have to detach from certain things before you can gain into another way of spirituality. There's different steps depending on the situations to be able to find achievement and go through those steps, and they help tremendously. That's what I like about, there's so much out there that can help people, because we are all different. All of our scenarios are completely different, and depending on which scenario happened first creates a different reflect on an impact on the outcomes of our perception. So yeah, like, I think spiritual refinement is an amazing thing. Refining ourselves, searching for or reaching for our goals, setting goals. And it gives you a path, it gives you a way, it gives you a drive, it gives you motivation. Self-motivation is important. Being nice and kind to ourselves is important too. But being able to give ourselves drive with a positive aspect. So there's ways to motivate that's unhealthy, and it's driven by fear. But yeah.
Well, I mean, we've talked about it. We've talked about it on here, right? We've had these topics, right? We've had topics, right? So it's all part of a journey, right? First, there's the realization that that everything is crazy, right? Then from there, you go to the seeking of the knowledge, and you gain the understanding. And along the way, you get tools, and you learn things that help you, and all this stuff, right? But once you have all that stuff in your toolbox and you're all ready to go and you're taking all the classes, now it's time to do the work, right? And that's where the refining comes in. That's where the fun comes in, right? So you're saying find what drives you. Well, I find that finding something that you're passionate about, that's a driving factor, because then it's not just, you're not working anymore. You're creating, or you're doing something that you enjoy. So it's no longer about just, like how man has it set up where you have to go, in order to have fun, you have to go work first. No. Being passionate and finding something you're passionate about is very rewarding. And it can also help with getting to know who you are as a person, and who you really are inside. Who's the real you, right? Because unless you find what's passionate about, you'll never realize who you really were, right?
Yeah, I agree. I resort to hobbies and things that bring me joy, but I also understand that that's a tool. It's to get away. So the proper way is to be able to sit with ourselves and have that same experience, be able to feel all those things that we've experienced just by ourselves. And so, like solitude, isolation, it's not a bad thing. I have a family. I love my family. I don't really enjoy isolation without them. But us being isolated in the woods and away from others, as far as just camping for days, and like it could do it for a long time. I do get isolation every night where my wife, she gets her morning time. She's a early riser, and she usually goes to bed around 9 or 10 o'clock, and then I get a couple hours or so at night, where that's where I practice my meditation and just have me time, and she has her time. It works out. We get a little bit of a balance that way. So, but I mean, we just going through life, you just growing up, you really start to mellow down naturally, and you start to become aware of these things that used to trigger you, or us, me, myself. They're just things that I just consider petty now. There's no reason to put any energy to it, just those things right there. It's allowing, not allowing things to control us from the inside, which helps out tremendously when it comes to a spiritual growth. That's the whole idea of spiritual growth is becoming aware of it, but then utilizing it within your day-to-day life. And it's beautiful. So, oh, hey, Innovision. Looks like you just came in.
Yeah, and Chris, we talk about self-refinement, but self-refinement also requires self-reflection, right? Because you were talking about what things that used to, trigger you or whatever. I was my own worst enemy because in my head, I could send myself off in a spiral, and I've noticed myself in the past, even like year, I'm not the same person I was. I don't I don't react like I used to. Things don't fly off the handle easily, and I try to keep and I am able to keep that peace, which is amazing. So I've known in the past year I've refined myself to the point where life is fun and enjoyable, and it's not that stressful anymore, and I don't get in my head like I used to. So these are all positive things, and the refining yourself, that's all part of the work and the journey, right? Because iron sharpens iron. So if you're not sharpening your iron, you're going to be dull.
Yes, I agree. Iron sharpens iron as long as you're sharpening it in the proper way. Iron can also damage iron, so it's just having balance between promotes growth as well. So it's just like right now, there's shifts happening every day. It's just sometimes they're a little subtle, sometimes they're pretty extreme into what we're used to. And I just mean energy, the human residence. It fluctuates quite often from all kinds of different factors, and we feel the effects of it. There's times that solar flares can damage just our electronics themselves. If that's the case, those spikes were electronics within ourselves as well that run off a certain level of voltage, and it fluctuates, it ranges, but it can also feel these effects. We have to create balance, constant equilibrium to grow. So if the earth is ascending, we have to adapt and become in equilibrium with that for it to be comfortable. It's still going to happen regardless, but it's the difference between feeling a chaotic event compared to just adapting to what's been the change. So, but it's all a part of refining ourselves to become one back with the divine. And it's not that we're not the divine now, but just like you said before, Vinny, back to remembrance, back to, I like to say it's kind of like water. It's back to the purity, it's shedding and detaching from this dimension to attach to another. So, if anybody else would like to join, they can send a request and we will get you up here.
It's funny you bring up the Schumann resonance. Have you seen it for today? Do you see what it looked like?
I did not. Can you explain?
It was a cross. There was a white cross in the Schumann resonance.
Wow.
I've never seen anything like that. And that's like the third time I've seen something crazy a crazy picture in the Schumann resonance in the last year. So that just goes to show you that like the energy's changing. It's definitely changing, and the energy's shifting. We're shifting out of this negative like energy, and we're moving into a higher vibrational frequency, and that's evident in just checking just the resonance of like what you were talking with the solar flares and all that other stuff. There's a lot of energy going crazy right now, and we're slowly incorporating all that energy into this earth so we can build something.
Definitely. High in a vision. I appreciate you, brother. We've just been kind of going back and forth about spiritual refinement, and it's led to pretty much, it all relates, honestly, but it's a little bit of discussion here and there. But would you like to go ahead and put your beautiful knowledge on spiritual refinement and how it's impacted you in your life? Because you're a pretty refined individual. So much love, brother.
Thank you, Brother Chris. Welcome, Vinny. Thanks for being here. I was delayed. I have much work that needs to be done. We are refining every moment. What's up? Azrael, see you in the comments. It is your Sunday night. We are here on Spiritual Talk 369. Welcome to the system of TikTok. I am in a vision, and I am with you always. Spiritual refinement, self-refinement, to be more specific, something that we must practice. The moment we open our eyes to the moment we close them, and everything else is someone else. But in any case, it's still you. As we self-refine, it is true that we must let go of specific, very specific aspects of ourselves that we have come to know and love. We have been attached to so many things. We have been told to attach ourselves to so many things, but there is a system that must be played in order to get through. Personally, I'm faced with specific aspects of this reality that I did not want to ever have to cross. But of course, it must come to the surface. And I thank you all for allowing me to realize myself and so many more perspectives than I could ever gain on my own. Back to you, Brother Chris.
Thank you, Innovision. Your perspective has always been respected, and it's been amazing. So you gain to that collective tremendously all the time, and I appreciate that. So I just want to say your perspective is extremely valued. Oh, looks like we have a had a guest request. Hello, how are you?
Hello, good.
I'm Chris. This is it's a group account that we share, host every Sunday at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and tonight's discussion is spiritual refinement. So you're more than welcome to go ahead and talk about spiritual refinement, how it's impacted in your life. It's a safe place here. All perspectives are respected, so much love.
Thank you for the welcome. So this year I just started my journey of awakening. But things that I found that came up that I needed to change were things like judgment, judgment towards others and judgment towards myself. I don't know. There's so many things. It's been like the worst year of my life. But, awakenings can be rough because you have all that shadow work to do. But it's part of refining, refining yourself and helping, raise the frequency of the collective.
Definitely. And it can be, it's gonna be tough. That's why it's so rewarding, because it is. It's difficult, and all of our own situations are unique to ourselves, so they impact us. Do you utilize TikTok to help for guidance, or have you found like spiritual guides, maybe even a spiritual family that people talk about?
So yeah, I joined most of the lives, like Alien Tea lives and a lot of different lives, just listening and absorbing and, not really, joining in the lives, but just gathering in the knowledge. And I'm so thankful, that y'all do this, that y'all give out the knowledge and the wisdom that y'all have learned over y'all journeys, because it helps. And then hearing y'all stories, it's awesome.
I personally love hearing people's stories. That's what drew me to. It's not what drew me to TikTok. I was honestly just bored. I have a special needs daughter, and a couple years ago, we were in just at the doctor's a lot more often at that time, and needed something to do. So I downloaded that just to watch funny videos, honestly. And it led me to spiritual TikTok, which I was already a spiritual person, but it was all within. I didn't express it to only. There was like 3 people in my life that expressed what I truly believed to, and one was my wife, and another was a couple cousins of mine. But it's really helped me tremendously. Spiritual TikTok. It's helped me a lot. And I'd already been through a lot of my deep rooted shadow work that I needed to go through before I'd found spiritual TikTok. But the expression, the hearing everybody's stories, those are the things that bring me back. And it's amazing. Because just like Innovision said, everybody's perspective, it paints a little picture for us, even if we don't resonate with it. Even if it's a backstroke on what we have going on, it doesn't have to be perceived as friction or against. It can be perceived as the polarity of what goes up must come down. And there's a lot of different ways to look at things, and that can also be perceived as a positive way of how energy flows. There's not necessarily a negative and a positive. We just perceive what we do because of our own experiences. But thank you. I really appreciate it. I love Alien T Lives as well. They're great. So we kind of do the same function that way. It's bled into this. So we've been going to Alien T's Lives for, I guess, almost probably 1.5 years, 2 years, I say. But good times.
Yes, I've learned a lot, just listening to everybody and, all the different things on TikTok. So many things. Like, I just became active on TikTok this year. And wow. So much knowledge and wisdom. It's been a journey.
As it should be. So even people that don't go through awakenings, I watch them go through their journey. They might have, certain things that I might perceive as a hiccup in their journey, but that's the same thing you were just talking about, that judgment. Those are things that you just shouldn't put energy to. And even we might consider things a discernment that is a positive manner. That the butterfly effect doesn't always end in a positive manner. So it's hard sometimes to really figure out if that's what we do is a right decision. So I think it's just best to flow, let your intuition guide us, and it usually impacts in a wonderful way. So something that can kind of conflict what I just said, but that happens sometimes. So, Vinny, when did you, you've been pretty in. Did you realize a lot of your spiritual gifts through reflection? Like, kind of when you realizing that you've always had them, but just became more aware to them, after you've really became, what we call that first spark, that awakening. Sometimes it's through study, sometimes it's an NDE, which is what mine was, but I was so young that it took a while to really analyze things. It was later into my teens before it really started sinking in that, what I had experienced was related to what we call the other side, or, a pocket dimension. There's many different names for it, but how about you? What kind of sparked
Okay,
that?
so uh so so kind of in the beginning of my spiritual journey, right? So the beginning, I guess you call the awakening part, right? I've always been my whole life been trying to make sense of life that doesn't make sense around me. Because I'm the kind of person, if it doesn't make sense, then why are we doing it, right? That's always been my attitude. So I you know, I had an idea, and I was like, man, it would be real cool if I could, really get this third eye thing going, right? Because I didn't know what I was doing. No clue in the beginning. But the thing is, though, from where I am then to where I am now, it still feels the same. Nothing's changed. It's just my perspective changed. And the things that I've been doing this stuff my whole life. And I didn't realize I was doing it my whole life because I just thought everybody felt this way, or everybody felt this way, or this happened to everybody because, I grew up in a household where we didn't talk about things. You just did what you were told and kept it moving, right? So but as I've done the shadow work, and as I've done more self reflection and more just being present and at peace with myself, I've noticed these things, and I've through knowledge and understanding and seeking that knowledge, I've learned to recognize what these things are that I'm growing as far as like spiritual perception and all these other things that we talk about.
Definitely. Yeah, I think back, my spiritual awakenings, they became gradual because of young NDE, but the profound ones really came after I was an adult. Once I was able to get away and think for myself, just like you were talking about. I chalked up these things to social anxiety, stuff like that. Even when I was younger, didn't like the center of attention, still don't today, until I realized that it wasn't until I talked to a couple people that brought it to my attention when they even mentioned the word empath, and are just sensitive to different fields, and never really it profound on me when I started encountering certain like ghost, basically spirits, and it wasn't the fact that I could see him at first, because that didn't happen that often, to be honest. It's just I felt something around me, and then once I was able to actually see something, that's that validation to understand that I'm not only feeling people, but I'm feeling other energies around, and it related to another profounding spiritual moment for me, honestly, that this is all spiritual that I'm feeling, because it was very relatable to the same feelings that I get when I'm around other humans. Um, so that gave my perception that we're all spirits, and I'm feeling that energy of that spiritual energy of them, you know. sometimes that reflects into emotions. It doesn't always reflect into emotions. Some people are very good at transmuting that, but while the transmutation is happening, you could still feel that energy. So I'm kind of rambling now, so I'm gonna move on. Inhibition, do you have anything to add to? I know you've got all kinds of stuff to add, but I don't know. I know you're really busy today and you've got a lot of things going on, so I just wanted to make sure that you had time.
We make time, right? We are creators in our own sense, co-creating this experience of this reality. And your rambles are always refreshing. Do not discount yourself. Be careful who you say you are, Vinny. You limit yourself. In any case, welcome, Tanya. I'd like to welcome you. I've seen you around. You're a friend of mine, and you're part of the family, of course. Sisters. Refinement, coming back to focus on key, is what we must do. When we veer off and go down a trail, veer off the path, if you will, we find something there that will probably cut us or make us stumble, perhaps a dead end. And we must turn around, go back to the path, to the foundation of where we were starting from. Yes, this awakening has been a soul journey as it is yours. These things are not any one of ours. They are all ours, as we are one. And I've always said, we will all sing the same song. Of course, it is our own voice that must be heard, our own frequency that must be felt by those who are willing to catch it. Perhaps it could be hot or cold, but we know that we can wear gloves. We can cool it down. We can control our own frequency, raising it high and low, and it does not affect us. It is temporary. You are welcome, as you all are welcome. You are being faced with a point to realize what our morals are, what are we standing for, and what are we doing about it? What are we allowing, and what are we tolerating? There are things, of course, that are out of our control, such as the weather, as beautiful as it is, such as our younger ones, the ones that we hold so dear. They will become just like us in a moment, without question. So who are you now? Who am I now? It is an awareness that we must hold in every step. And it's often that people, I won't say humans, because I'm also human. People will be confused at what I say and what I do, but then I'll just give them a smile and ask them how they're doing, what are they doing. Appreciate them for perhaps what they're wearing or what they're doing. Yep. We show appreciation in many ways for ourselves. This is coming back to showing appreciation for ourselves. No longer giving away is what I'm being asked, and it is difficult that I am being cut off. I'm being humbled in ways that are out of my control. It did stem on a decision, yes, the slightest little decision, the truth or the lie. And I will always choose truth. For if it's not me, then who, is what I've been told. And these refinements of truth that we are given, they will mold us into something greater than we ever were, than we ever understood about ourselves. And this is also challenging to those around us, because no one wants to see any of us break down and act as if we're a victim. No. It is a blessing to be given these challenges. It is the way. With a loving heart, always. Thank you.
Thank you, Univision. And I've heard you say it many a times, the same song, and I love that, because every time you say it, I reflect and think about how we're co-creators and how we're already doing that. It's not the same note, it's that harmonic frequency. And it's not through every single person, but when you have certain people that resonate, and then those groups resonate with other groups, and it keeps continuing into that collective, that beautiful song. It's amazing. And as we rise, it'll just be that much better to our ears, right? If anybody else wants to join up, you can request. We're just kind of bouncing back and forth about self-refinement and how that impacts us. But it's a spiritual discussion. We can talk about anything, to be honest, because pretty much anything spiritual can reflect on self-refinement. So, oh, hey Philip.
Hey, brother. How are you?
I'm good.
And I think Rachel had a great day, and she must have wore out her voice because she's still in the comment section.
Well, I appreciate you coming up. Would you like to go ahead and just talk about, some spiritual refinement yourself and anything really?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I'm doing a bit, I guess, with all the lives I join. It's difficult because I never really had a faith of like a strict, guidelined belief. So, I'm a bit like you yourself. I saw a ghost, and then that was like, oh, okay, here we go. That just opened a whole heap of questions, and so having to refine that, like doing, I guess, research really to refine what I saw, instead of just being like, oh, I saw a ghost. Being able to explain it to myself a bit better was important.
I agree. Having that clarification, validation, other side of experiencing it, it just it helps fill in those gaps of the unknown that we still perceive, because unfortunately we have a polarity within our mind too that is gonna be our biggest critic, and those experiences help out tremendously, even if it's research, even if it's finding certain validation through others' experiences. Those help out tremendously. So yeah, I use TikTok. Uh, it's helped refine me as well and better understand me, because we all communicate with a language, and it's nice to know that there is some lingo out there that we can all relate to, and it helps communicate somewhat of our experiences to see them to be similar, even though when we get down to the details, we can all experience the same exact thing. The details are going to be different within ourselves, but since we have language that's limited, it's always very relatable when we communicate it. So, not always, but when they're similar. So, I appreciate you, Philip. How are the dogs doing?
Yeah, they're kind of quiet at the moment, which is good.
Yeah.
I showed some on a live last night, the puppies, and yeah, no, life is what you make of it, and I guess same with your spiritual self. It is what you make of it. So if you put in the work, do the self-refinement, I guess things can be more accurate. I guess accurate might not be the right word. Yeah, but it's more something.
I mean, it can be more accurate for sure, because it's every awareness that you gain is making something more accurate for you individually, regardless. So yeah, clarification either way. So I appreciate you, Philip. I think a lot of it resorts to love and realizing that we can perceive almost damn near everything out of love. And just that factor right there changes so many things naturally within ourselves that we will already think in a different pattern. Don't get me wrong, there's triggers, there's things that have to be done and analyzed, but our natural instincts are moving in the energy that we produce and generate. So if we're generating love, and within that love energy, our natural instincts are going to be within that energy. So that's kind of what I meant by that.
Cool. I think we have a mic flashing.
Oh, go ahead. Whoever was flashing, I'm sorry, I wasn't. Tanya.
Hey again. So part of my self-refinement is stepping out of my comfort zone. So like coming up here, that's like part of my stepping out of my comfort zone. I find I have trouble with explaining things, so and y'all do it so well. But yeah, it's part of my self-refinement, just stepping out of my comfort zone, because I won't know until I do it. So
That's a big part of growth, and
Well, Tanya, listen. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go
Listen,
ahead.
Tanya. I wasn't always this. I wasn't always this eloquent at explaining things. I've struggled with that for a long time, because in my head, I knew what I wanted to say, but getting the words out, sometimes my brain was ahead of my mouth, so I would have struggle with that. So it comes with work, man. This is part of the growing process, right? The spiritual journey, it's about levels, right? There's levels of understanding, and each thing that you learn and you do unlocks a different level of understanding and part of the journey. So it all come in time, and it gets easier as you go through it, and you're able to use the things we talk about, and it's not so much work as in just something you do automatically, if that makes sense.
So I'm not naturally a big talker. I'm more of a, a person that listens. So it's something different for me.
That's my natural way too. I'm an observer. Um, so I get up on lines and ones that I'm really comfortable in, because even then it's stepping out of that comfort zone myself, and that's a huge part of growth. To be honest, like 2 months ago, I started going to atheist lives on purpose, not trying to like really start anything. I never did. We actually had amazing discussions, and we saw eye to eye on a lot of things. But that was a part of a new shadow work for me, was stepping out of my comfort zone and going up and actually discussing things that I believe in that still have a lot of tangibility. That has been those gap fillers for myself. But hold on, I got somebody else to bring up. Oh, Fire Ash. Hiya, Fire Ash. Hello. How are you tonight, Fire Ash?
Hi, I'm great. I'm a very absent-minded individual, though, with the time. So, yeah, but I'm great.
It's okay. I'm laughing, but it's okay. I would like to go. We had somebody else come up. Is it Butches? Is that your name?
Duchess.
Okay.
My name's Heather.
Hi, Heather. My name's Chris.
Hi. Hi, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, you've been listening in the discussion. You're more than welcome to add anything to it.
So I wouldn't even know where to begin. Like with all of this stuff. And when it comes to like self-refinement, this is actually an alt account that I started to do shadow work, which has been an extremely interesting experience. So the things that you're intimidated by, or maybe that scare you, to go full force at it is a new experience. It's been extremely rewarding, though, and I found a lot of stuff about myself and about the beliefs that I thought that I had. So it's been rewarding. I came into this life remembering home, where we come from. I remember living there. I remember past lives. I didn't remember why I came here, though, so I was a very frustrated little child. And I felt kind of like abandoned. Like, why am I here? I don't want to be here. This isn't my home. This isn't my family. I want to go home. And when I was 5, I had, well, some people call it an STE. Some people would call it an NDE. It just depends on what university you're asking. But I fell asleep. I don't know if I like stopped breathing. I don't know if I was just sleeping. I mean, I know it wasn't just a dream. But I fell asleep during the day, crying, because I wanted to go home. And I knew that in order to get back home, I couldn't have a physical body. And so I was crying and pretty much wanting to go home. And I fell asleep. And I woke up outside of like these brick double doors, with light shining through them. And they opened. And I looked down at myself and I was glowing, like white. And at the time, it didn't seem odd to me, but I had no feet. So, and it felt like something reached inside my chest. It didn't hurt and began pulling me almost like on a conveyor belt down this tunnel toward white light. And I didn't really think anything. It all seemed very familiar to me until it stopped partway. And when it stopped, I said, "What's happening?" But I said it telepathically. And then an angel appeared to the side of me, and she didn't have wings or anything. She was glowing. She was a female, human, wearing robes, and she had a veil on her head. And she said, "This is what will happen when you," I don't know if we can say the word, unalive, but you're not done yet. You have much to do. And I said, "What will I do?" And she said, "You'll be a teacher." And I got to ask her all kinds of questions and stuff. And I was, 5 at the time. And I also didn't think that this was odd until I was probably in my 30s, looking back at it. I asked what religion was the right religion, because I grew up in a home. We didn't have Bibles in the house. We were not any religion. We went to church for funerals and for weddings. That was it. So I was interested I figured if anybody's going to know, it's going to be an angel, right? So I asked her what was the right religion, and she said none of them are. And I wasn't satisfied with the answer, so I reworded the question. And I said, and this is all telepathic, I said, "What's the closest to how things work?" And she had said Hinduism and Buddhism, which I thought, I didn't know what that was. I'm a little kid. I grew up in America. I wasn't exposed to, church and stuff like that, let alone any of that. And she knew that I didn't understand what she had said. So then she said, "Everything you do comes back to you." And she knew I understood that. And so that was like my first experience with the other side. I think that they did that to remind me of why I came here, because I couldn't remember. I could remember all kinds of stuff, but I couldn't remember why I came here. And I think they did that so that I would stay here and not be in such a hurry to get home. They made it really clear that as soon as I was done here, that I would get to come back home. So there was no rush. There was no hurry.
It's amazing. And it's, I spent many years seeking for hearing people's testimonies of their experiences in these, and there's different labels for them, just like you said. One question I always have to everyone that I actually get to speak to, because I have been able to speak to quite a few, I don't have a number, is how did it make you feel in that moment?
Oh gosh. So I wrote about this, and I have enough for many books. When I was getting pulled down the tunnel, it was like I was wearing a backpack of bricks that I didn't know existed. And the closer I got to the light, it felt like bricks were just getting dropped out of that backpack that I didn't know I was wearing, until no weight remained whatsoever. And I felt unburdened. I felt free. I felt content and happy. And I knew that everything was going to be okay no matter what happened while I was here on Earth. And then afterward, I felt relief. Like, okay, I can do this. All right, I know I'm only here for a short amount of time. Like, even if I live until I'm 120 years old, it's literally a sliver compared to our existence.
I agree, 100%. And that is a lot of that's a lot of the answers we get in so many different ways and forms and fashions.
Right.
For me, it's my most simplest answer was peace. Like, I literally felt peace, and
Yeah.
I
the amount of love you feel is insane. So it's very hard to describe. It's all encompassing. It's everything.
It is, and there's no, we don't have a way to explain it in language. Even the word love itself has so many different factors to it that there's just not enough in language to explain it all. But at least it gives a range, which is nice.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming up and sharing, because those experiences, they can bring some people, just honestly can bring terror, but also can bring just amazing joy. Now, what I mean by terror is, I feel like when I analyze, at least hearing somebody's testimony, they didn't cross all the way over. They didn't have that full experience to the point where they actually either communicated with somebody else, felt the bliss itself. They were still kind of right in the middle of that traumatic situation and didn't get that full experience. And those ones, I've noticed, have had a little bit more of a difficult, in my discernment, difficult awakenings,
Yeah. I had an awakening when I was 38. And it came out of nowhere. And that's pretty much how most of the stuff has gone. Because I can remember all kinds of stuff about being at home and not on the other side and living other lives, incarnations, etc. But I couldn't remember why I was here. And then when I was told that I would be a teacher, I thought, okay, school teacher. And then, I would joke around with my mom and say, well, maybe I'm a teacher of like what not to do when you come to Earth, right? So it definitely, just because I knew, didn't make it easier. And it seemed that the NDE or STE was planned prior to me even getting here, but I just don't remember it, which is annoying, because there was several incidences where I was in an emergency situation, but I would hit the emergency situation and then I would not remember anything afterward. And I think they were thinking, we got to figure out how we can get her to remember, because otherwise she's going to end up back here before she's supposed to be back here. So it was interesting. But when I was 38, I had, my nephew was born. And my mom was at the hospital. And she was sending pictures to me. And in one of the photos, he was looking right at the camera. And I burst out bawling and said, I thought I'd never see you again. And I thought, okay, why am I... And I said this out loud, why am I crying? And why did I just say that? And as soon as I did, memories from a previous life came flying back to me, except what I had remembered from that life was just my adult life. In the 1700s in France. And, but I didn't remember my upbringing. I didn't remember my childhood. And when I saw him and my memories came back, I knew why I hadn't remembered. Because it was extremely traumatic on me. He was like my best friend, and he crossed over when we were little. And so then I was alone. And I know in this life, that we see everybody again, and that there is really no such thing as death. The physical body, yeah, but that's it. And so that was, little did I know, that was the start of my awakening. And then it just kept going and going and going and going and going. And it comes in waves. And I will get knocked on my rear often. And have to take time alone to process what's happening. And then with like the shadow work and everything, so not only am I processing this lifetime's shadow aspects, but I'm also processing previous existences shadow, all the characters that I have played. So it's been interesting, and it's been a lot, to say the least.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're handling it very well, though, I must say. You perceive it very well, and it feels like you're very receptive of it, which is also why you're, in my opinion, you're able to have those gifts. I wanted to say something about how you talked about being planned, like your NDE. Okay, so the voice that I heard when I was 12 years old, I realized it was my voice in my mid-20s telling myself to not go, or to go back to the light because I have unfinished things that need to be done. So that definitely coincides with what you're talking about. It's just really interesting. So that was another awakening of mine in my mid-20s of going, oh wow, when I did my reflection, I'm like, that was me now. And it didn't really hit me until I heard it through playing back on this certain recorder. And I used to use that recorder. I started using a recorder at that time, just to play my thoughts throughout the day into it. And then I listened back to it later. And I was doing a reflection session on myself and had an awakening, like, wow, that was me talking to myself. That's nuts, so
Right. I've actually thought, when I've heard other people tell their stories too, so a lot of times, we have guides and everything that are with us throughout our experience on Earth, right, to help us. And the angel that I saw in the tunnel, when we have those experiences, a lot of times it's us. It's our higher self. Because there's another portion of us that's always at home. So even while we're here, there's only a certain amount of energy that can fit in the physical vessel.
I agree 100%. I really appreciate you coming up, and I'm gonna move down to Fire Ash and let her talk about it. But
Sounds good.
Do you have time to stick around? Because we'll go back around.
Oh yeah.
All right. Awesome. Yep. Thank you so much. Fire Ash, I appreciate you. You know that. So, you're. The Spiritual Talk 369 is a joint account, and there's different hosts. My TikTok account is Chris's Crystals, and Fire Ash and Innovision, Rabanus and Edio. They're all a part of this. We do this so we can have a safe place on Sundays to come and just talk about whatever topic we decide to talk about that week. But Fire Ash, the show is yours, so you gotta kick it off for the next 30 minutes. I'm just joking, but just whatever you want to talk about, spiritual refinement, what's been going on in the shifts lately, how you've been adjusting to them, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, hi all. Those who don't know me, I'm Ash. I am the other half of Inavision. Basically, we've been looking at those that are keeping track of energy charts and following the keens and actually kind of going with the flow of what's going on energetically speaking. And recent, we're looking at going into the retrograde, okay, officially. And anyone who understands, if you don't understand retrograde, literally just go to YouTube and Google what is the planetary retrograde, Mercury retrograde. Just look at literally the orbit and the way it shifts. So that's, of course, coming into effect. You have the massive 1111 portal that's activated already for the sensitives, and will be felt and prevalent. Yeah, so you have to scope out on it on an energetic level, right? I'll come back into me. I'll just like leave it scoped out at that level for a minute on the bigger scale. And all of that is right in tune with what is being felt and known. Like, we've made the shift. We are anchoring in. We know that all that's coming up is on its way out. Not to hold on to anything, to anchor in our vibrations and refine ourselves, because we're in that stage. That's what we're feeling the call of. We're being called to do it, not just be it, not just know about it, to also do it. So you have natural urges being brought out in everyone to start refining, to do the self-care, the self-work, the shadow work, the light work, the root work, the actually bringing their bodies into balance, anchoring into their crystal body, so they're bringing their four central bodies into alignment. Everyone is naturally, through the energy that's being inundated daily. So you have in current affairs and times and moving forward, in the foreseeable, you have that full metamorphosis, release, change, activation. You have people that have never even felt the glimmer, are coming awake and aware, and it's going to keep happening in waves, as is per status quo of the flow of creation and the way creation is flowing. But if you look at the arch aspect of it, we are in the swing now. So we're going to start picking up momentum. We're building up. We're diamonds, right? We're crystalline. So we are going to start refining. We're going to start encouraging pressure where we need pressure for that refinement. And where I'm at personally is I'm an energy sensitive. So I'm holding myself accountable. I'm paying attention to the weather, the energy influence, and all that jazz. So I'm doing my utmost to hold myself accountable for the awareness level that I do have and anchor in what's meant to be anchored in, and to refine myself. That's been a big thing for me. I've been allowing that look at what it was when it came up kind of thing. When something comes up, I acknowledge it. I don't try to pretend like it's not there. I acknowledge it, and then I release it. And in that acknowledgement, I understand, okay, this is this shadow work. But yeah, I've been looking at my own existence and energetic footprint and looking at what ways I can improve, because I know I can, and I'm going to. So I've been doing a lot of self-analysis lately. And I mean that in a deep level too, not just some clinical dry term. I mean, like, on all forms. I've been analyzing and been receiving big light codes lately as well. So yeah, I feel the grounding straps of the divine are well snug and secure in place. I think I answered like what you asked me. I'm pretty certain I did.
Yes. um, Thank you. I appreciate it. Because awareness is amazing. And even just spreading your awareness is going to give people's awareness. It's going to gain awareness somewhere. It helps me tremendously all the time. And as you were talking about analyzing yourself now, I've been having to, I haven't purposely been analyzing, but I've been having to lately. And it's because of just a different energy of perception that has triggered different things, that is creating more shadow work for myself that I have to analyze. To the point where, you know, I've had to do a lot of transmutation and don't normally have to. So that's been going on for, I keep saying a few weeks, so it's probably been over a month now. So I understand.
Hug something loose on that, bro. And I don't want to lose it. So I'm going to jump in with you here.
Please do.
And tell you that, yes, you're right. Like, whether I meant to do it or not, which I did, because I was like, okay, not I. Let me correct myself right there. We. Okay? Because this is a duo thing. Like, every day. It's very few days that we miss a message where we're listening to what's going on energetically, what's going on with different comments, what's going on with the solar flares, what's going on with the Schumann charts. Like, I hold myself accountable, yes. It's not just that. I know that collectively the light beings are saying, hey, you are anchoring in your divine form now. You are here. This is where it's at. So hold yourself accountable on this level where you should be holding yourself accountable. And that awareness alone, seeing where, like, connecting with light beings, guides, spirit guides, you know how I am, and having that communication be something that's going across all of the lines. It's a frequency that's being heard through all ears, whether they understand it or not. So yeah, like it was that, I guess, that ice bucket challenge that I was giving my guides, the procrastination station, where I throw a fit and dig my heels in, and I'm like, I want to understand. What? No, we can't keep going because I don't understand. And yeah, I had a quick reminder of what I've already been through. You can call it the Tiny Tim. No, not the Tiny Tim. What is it? Well, Tiny Tim is off the movie, The Christmas Carol, right? I don't remember the Christmas movie, but you know what I'm talking about with the ghosts. Except for they're not,
Yes.
like, you know,
I don't
ghosts.
remember it either. I do remember that. I don't remember the name of it.
Yeah. But yeah, I had a very stark, clear reminder of what I already knew. And yeah. It's been pretty interesting, honestly, looking at it in that way, from that perspective, and looking at my own actions, and I'm like, you know, it's right. I can't use these excuses. I know my training, I know my work, I know the exercises, I know the self-care routines, I know the meditations, I know I can't allow the excuse of not doing better to be that, well, it was a big energy wave and I'm energy sensitive. Who isn't? Like, who isn't getting awakened? Who isn't sensitive right now?
True that.
And I have to hold myself accountable to that. And not allow my own sensitivity to bend my boundaries. So yeah, it's been like pretty introspective in that aspect altogether.
It's amazing. I love how you talked about the message, because you're right. Like, we receive messages daily, honestly. It's always a flow. And we all perceive energy differently. So that message is always that, in particular individual, what you needed to know in that moment. Philip, go ahead.
I'm just having trouble hearing you. I'm not sure if anyone else is, but yeah.
my mic was away from my. How about now?
Yeah, a little bit better.
Okay. Um, so I was just talking about how, the message and how we perceive energy. And a lot of times when you get individual people that resonate together, um, they receive a lot of the same familiar messages. But they get perceived in so many ways. Even people that are unaware of it, the subconscious mind still receives it, and it triggers in the moments that it's supposed to. It's amazing, in my opinion. But being more aware has so much more benefits, because we're able to. We don't have to. Not everything has to happen into what we consider divine timing because of the awareness that divine timing becomes a natural energy exchange instantly. Um, so, like when you talk about energy sensitive, it's around us everywhere. There's just even people that aren't waking up to the spiritual sense, they're heightened. That's what happens with energy in science. When the energy gets a little bit higher, it excites. If I have my Tesla coil and you put certain noble gases next to it, it heightens it, it creates light, and it's a cause to an effect. And, um, some people just perceive these energies in a different way that moves them in uncomfortable situations. And that's why these groups are amazing, because they help us prepare ourselves to be able to adapt to what's actually coming. And we don't get blindsided near as much when we are going full force into this, as Heather was talking about. Because, we have to face those fears. We have to face the things that are uncomfortable for us to create a comfort within that. Um, and, realistically, when it comes down to it, we should be comfortable with every aspect of everything. Anything that exists, any energy that could exist, we should be comfortable with that once we've adapted to the all. So, thank you, Ash. I think we'll. Are you done, or do you have a? This is a round table, so you guys are more than welcome to. I know I'm a host, but you're more than welcome to ask questions at a roundtable discussion. So if anybody has a question, all you have to do is flash your mic. You can ask a question where we can actually all go individually answer it. It's either way, whatever sparks up and you want to ask. You don't have to. It's not obligated, of course. But I just wanted to say that. Go ahead.
It just sparked up to me that possibly you may have felt a little of embarrassment. Some people might have, if you were, when I mentioned about the mic being away, and you're doing such a great job as a host, by the way. And so it's having that control reaction to the embarrassment. So, like, if you ask Sarah Lynn, she would say she doesn't feel embarrassment, but we do feel embarrassed, but we just are controlled about it because it's like water off a duck's back.
No,
It's
definitely.
like.
Yeah, there's an ultimate stage. Like my natural instinct was like, oh, I'm sorry, and it's more of it can be perceived as an embarrassment to, sorry you weren't able to hear me, and so on and so forth.
And then eventually it's not even embarrassment, it's just like, it happens.
Exactly. Yeah, well, it's great when that is, when we can self-reflect on something that happened right away, and it's your embarrassment, the energy itself that was related to that word has changed. It's like, well, we'll get them next time. It's okay. So, and that's a big part of all of our spiritual growths, because we're not perfect. We don't succeed every time the first time in anything in life, and how we come back and get it the next time um, can be done in a healthy manner, where you still get to succeed and have those rewards, but you don't have to put yourself through the lowest times of your life as that in a sense. I learned that the hard way myself. I grew up racing motocross where I was extremely hard on myself to succeed in what I did. Um, to the point where like I put myself in the hospital quite a few times because I just exceeded what my limits could do. And between that and just malnourished at that time because I wasn't giving myself breaks. And that's also when I had my NDEs, is in the middle of racing motocross. I've had 3 of them, but I only remember one vividly. The other one I have vague memories of, and my third one I don't have a remembrance of going onto another side, but I did live a 30-year life as somebody else while I was in a coma. So that was really interesting, and it took me a long time to not have deja vu from remembrance of that life carried on into this life at this time, because I perceived it as a completely different life. So my
I don't think doctors would have anything for that. Sorry.
They don't. They didn't. They really didn't. So
No, they don't.
my
Yeah.
subconscious would just misfire on a lot of things. But honestly, there's a lot of things that carried over. Like I knew a lot about the banking system before I really actually studied any or even knew anything about it, just because in that life I was a banker and there was a lot of relevance to that that I just happened to know prior to, which is really interesting.
So that's why you don't work in a bank now.
No, exactly. It is, yeah, definitely.
Okay, I have a question for everyone might be able to answer. Most recent emotion they've refined or noticed that they've been refining. So I guess like embarrassment. Mine has been the difficult one, love. Like, so yeah, it's really tricky.
Okay, I like that question. We'll start up the top. We'll go to Vinny, and the question was, what's your most recent emotion that gave you that sense of refinement?
Okay. Well, I guess I'll go with 2 because most recently it's been my confidence, right, in speaking and getting what I know out and being able to impart that knowledge or whatever to people so that they can understand it. And as far as like before that, it was just when people would challenge me, just not getting into it with people. Don't don't sometimes if some doesn't understand what you're saying, going back and forth doesn't really help either one of you. So sometimes it's easier to just not engage and let the other person just talk rather than try to explain your point or even, try to make them understand or whatever. So I guess that's kind of what I've worked on recently.
Nice. So, instantly in the moment, either changing your reaction to maybe what you feel and or just no reaction at all. Yeah, that's good because that's a great practice. Honestly, that's like for a lot of times that was like my first step was just not to engage, and then to change the emotions that I had for the reasons why I wanted to engage in the first place. Um, you know, which I still go through on a daily basis. Um, Sarah Lynn, would you like to answer the question? And you can also talk about self-refinement, anything that has to do with that as well. After the question, either way.
Okay, I'll answer the question first. I think the hardest thing for me lately is letting go of people when they don't serve a purpose in your life and coming to terms with you can love people from a distance and still care about them and not have them in your daily life. You know, the shifts when you grow apart from friends and stuff like that. That's always been a struggle for me, not just recently, but always, always on my mind, because we have to do that. We have to allow people to go when it's no longer a pleasurable experience. And I've always found that extremely difficult because I am a very caring person. As far as self-refinement goes, that's something that's done on a regular basis, both, you know, in the real world and the spiritual world. As you grow, you learn, you experience. As you have those experiences, you're constantly growing, finding new methodologies, finding new ways to do the same thing you did before that's just a little bit better. Self-refinement, to me, the best way to look at it is being my best self every day. And that is getting a little bit better at my interactions, my spirituality, meditation, whatever it is I'm doing, just gaining that little bit of extra confidence and that little bit of just greater ability of accomplishing it the most effective way on a daily basis. So it's comparing myself only to myself. And that's hard because there's lots of people in our lives every day and we only see a glimpse of them. So sometimes I think we compare ourselves too much to others because we see what they're doing and we see what they're going through and we see all of their accomplishments, but we don't always see their struggles. And that's sometimes difficult to not see because we sometimes feel alone in those struggles as a result.
I agree. That's that was a huge part of my growth was not comparing myself to others and not setting expectations, but just doing my best and truly doing my best. You know, not tricking myself like I've done in the past. Like truly being the best that I can be. I love that because that's the truth. Every day we experience life. Um, we have this comparison even in ourselves of good days and bad days. Even on a bad day, that's we have a positive thing to look at because the next day is more than likely going to be better than that. Um, but it's learning and growing from those, even those bad days. Um, and we do naturally. We don't have to write it down on a piece of paper every time that we learn something. It's embedded within us, especially when you're seeking that, just like you are, Sarah. I mean, you seek to be a better person, to be your higher self, to be one with that. And, you know, I feel like that is our shift. Like once we shift into this next dimensional plane, of higher resonance. I don't know how to explain it really. I feel like that is us shifting into that higher self, and then we have another higher self that guides us into other higher spiritual realms. But you know, that's just my play on things. I appreciate you, Sarah. Your wisdom is amazing. You and you always have a lot of logic to everything, and it's beautiful. Everybody does it. Everyone has their own logic. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to displace anybody. It's just, you know, I enjoy it. So thank you. I'm just trying to compliment you. That's all.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate that because it gives me a reflection that I am on the right path. That's why I like to compliment people too. They need compliments because everywhere we go in the world, we're always disappointed in something that we do, or somebody else is always disappointed in us. It's very unusual for people to point out things that are positive about people. It's one of the reasons why I try to do it about everybody, because we all have value. I think the most important lesson that we can learn is each and every one of us has all of the information we already need within us. We may not be aware of it, and we may have to read it to remember it. We may have to hear it to remember it, or we may have to experience it to remember it. But we all have everything we need already. You are already your best person that you can be. I like to think of it as kind of like, you ever look through one of those little crap, I can't remember what the name of them are. Oh, the kaleidoscopes. You ever look through the little kaleidoscopes with little beads and the broken pieces of glass in them? It's kind of like we all are. We all have all of these pieces from all of these lives and all of our experiences. Some of them we don't even remember. And depending on how we turn that kaleidoscope and how those pieces lay, that's our view, that's what we see. That's why it changes over time as we refine ourselves. We're just changing the image in that kaleidoscope. Sometimes people see the image on the outside exactly the way we see it on the inside. Sometimes they don't. And both are equally as valuable. That's why sharing knowledge and wisdom with each other is important, because it helps us each to remember.
Definitely. I agree. I mean, and just explaining our experiences in the best way that we can possibly explain them spreads so much. I mean, that is knowledge. Experience is knowledge. Um, it's amazing. It's like when you were talking about just practicing finding the pros and not the cons in one in particular, in anything that's surrounding, whether it's a situation, a person, place, or thing. Um, it gives that energy to those, and that will actually bring out those positive aspects of those people and help them shed away of the perceived cons. And it's amazing. So it is a butterfly effect, because it's nice to it is nice to hear compliments, but it's just nice to have some recognition sometimes for those. It brings a lot of validation within an individual itself. So I do practice the same thing, and it comes from the heart, and it comes from observation. And sometimes some people don't get recognized, the recognition, because of certain situations, and I feel that they do. So, or they should. So, thank you, Sarah. I appreciate you. Innovision, would you like to answer the question? I think it was recent emotions that you've noticed for recent refinement.
Thank you, brothers and sisters, for the time shared. In a word, it is elation. We face these improbabilities or these great difficulties with glee, because you know that you are given exactly what you are meant to do. When we find these and overcome them, whether it be physical or mental, and believe me, this is our mental, this juncture that we are faced with. Psych. We find our pride on the forefront, that which we have become. Everything that we stand for, everything that everyone else believes us to be. It gives us a sense of pride. The shadow of pride is dependence, because it is dependent on others outside of yourself. And we wish to symbolize these as an example of our progress. In a song it was said, "Take a look at me now." But we are not. We are looking at ourselves every moment. I look at you, you look at me, and we are in this moment together in freedom. Freedom to be who we are. These principalities that we must face. we use as limitations to give us justification for what we have done. So in a word, it is elation. Thank you.
Thank you, Innovation. I laugh because that song's stuck in my head now. Oh, I feel like just blurting out, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Heather. Would you like to answer the question? It's just recent emotions that kind of an awakening of refinement moments that you've had recently.
Well, one of the things that I've been working on and I'm still working on is not holding back. I hold back a lot. And I'm still going through the process of why I do that and maybe ways to make it better, because I know that I can't continue to do that. Several times throughout my life when I have, I guess, done things that weren't considered normal, whether it was like a medium reading or locating a missing person or whatever, a lot of the reaction I get from people is fear, which like makes me want to back away and close up and be quiet. Because that's not, I mean, the whole reason that I'm able to do those things in the first place is if a person has abilities, it's not for themselves. I mean, that's why you'll see people that like know future events and stuff never win the lottery. It's not for us. It's so that we can help other people with it. I mean, that's the whole purpose of being here on Earth, is to interact with each other and to grow and learn from each other. And it's been a process, like my entire life. And so that's one of the things that I'm working on. And it's definitely more, it's easier said than done, that's for sure. So I leak bits and pieces of myself out here and there and gauge the reaction. And I need to probably stop doing that and maybe be more of who I am. That's it.
I understand. It can be difficult to you really have to have that sense of freedom, but also that comfort's safe. And it's hard to build that, even within a community, as much as we try. It's
That is one of the things that the shadow work has actually done for me, is I realized that I have, family and friends around me that know about me and the things that I've done and can do. But in this journey into the shadow, I realized in this process that I didn't feel safe. I never felt safe. So even though I had people around me that, knew and understood, as much as they could, and, saw the things that were happening, and, believed me and gave me support and encouragement and things like that, I still never felt safe to completely unload and be the real me, the whole me, the entire me. So that's another thing I'll have to go through, is to, get to that safe space so that I can, or feel the safe space so I can do that. And I'm in the process of it now.
So you've recently been kind of. It sounds like you've recently been kind of letting go more often.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's amazing. That's an amazing feeling. It's very uplifting, and it's like with all. It's just all that build up that of things that you want to express but you can't, because it also creates another negative energy, that a baggage that we hold on to because we don't express it. And it's like a loop. I went through that for so long. I still do, but it's just a different level now of perception, in comparison when I held back for so long. It's an amazing feeling. That's it's but you, to do it in a safe manner, you're doing it right. It's those are things that we talk about with the divine timing. Is you have to find that, everyone has to find their place, and once you find that, it's beautiful, because you're gonna have these amazing releases, and you're gonna help so many people. You already do, but thank you. I appreciate you. Philip, would you like to answer the question? Recent emotions that have given you a refinement, enlightenment moment, I guess.
Yeah, the tricky one, love. It's more projected in an energy way that can be received in not the way that I intend on it to be. I just can be friendly, and it can come across as being too friendly. So I'm working on it. It's tricky. It's a tricky energy, love. So yeah, I just have to, similar, having that space where you feel safe enough to be your authentic self. Not have to hold back, and it's tricky.
Yes, I understand. Love is very tricky, honestly. But that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah. I've been married for over 12 years now, so it's yeah, it's an energy. So, and if I admit that energy really freely and easily without even trying, when I'm just being nice and friendly to someone, that energy can come across in the wrong way, other than just being friendly. So it's it's been enlightening, to say the least.
It's awesome. I mean, seeking love brings so much amazing things to our lives, anyways. So just keep love on your mind.
Yeah, yeah. It's a way of expressing. I'm new to the internet and text messaging. Even I don't know what I'm. I'm just learning about the do's and don'ts of even just text messaging, and showing your face and things like that. It's just because energies, with everybody being very spiritually, not not necessarily raised, but everyone in the community is kind of spiritually guided. So it's very difficult because, yeah, enough said.
I understand. Um, Fire Ash, I'd like to give you the opportunity to answer the question. Recent emotions that have showed you refinement, which you've already just kind of discussed some of that earlier, but you can go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, no, like on that level for me, my sensitivity levels of taking offense has been something I've been really bringing purposefully into my awareness and focus to work on that and like get better with it. Straight up, like is my current like big one. And it does tie into what I was talking about earlier. Yeah. And it's just the facts of it. It's like, yeah, I've been sensitive my whole life. I know this already. I already know what I'm supposed to do. So, obviously, get back on the regimen and, yeah. Listen, the only way to build calluses is to do the work, right? So, that's what I'm doing. I'm holding myself accountable and I'm working on it. It shouldn't be society, community, anyone outside of self that I'm holding accountable for that sensitivity and trigger and everything else. I know too damn much. I can't play the game. I have to do the work that I'm called to do. Not because anything's holding it against me or over me, but my own self. Like, that's my compass, my calling. Like, yeah. I'm not new to the transition. I'm not new to change. And the more I remember that and hold myself accountable, remember what I'm supposed to be doing and what I need to be doing and what actually brings me that fulfillment of feeling my spark grow, of feeling that divine frequency anchor in. Like, that's what I have to do. And this is that. Like, I have to do the work. Doesn't matter how many times I've done it. It doesn't matter my modifications. I have to go back through my practice. Every aspect of me has changed. Everything. So everything is being systematically brought up to the surface and scrutinized. So, yeah, I'm like, I'm like my own built-in drill sergeant. When the calling rings like that.
It's also it's knowing your path. Um, you've accepted accountability, which means you're full force, which puts you right in that puts your mind, which is also what is helping create these intentions properly, right? It puts it in the right place. So I mean, that's amazing because those are the steps that people should always need to take is take accountability for what we need to do, and then we set goals, and we manifest it. So even if it's adapting to whatever's going on in our surroundings at that point on an energetic level, setting that goal and setting the intentions naturally helps and makes it go so much smoother. Um, being receptive, of course. And I know you've been putting in the work. We have discussions, so not as much as we used to, but we still do, and the message gets across. But um, it's amazing um, because you always find balance within when you know when you need to spread things for the collective, and also when we have our self work that we need to do, and we all have it. Everybody that teaches, they hit a certain level and a point where they just can't teach because they're still experiencing that. And so I appreciate you, Ash. As far as me, recent emotions, honestly, I've felt a lot of chaotic emotions lately, just because of I'm very receptive of energy in my surroundings. I don't block it for the most part, unless I feel very vulnerable and very out of place. But I absorb and I transmute, and I've utilized it as an amazing experience through my life. But it took a lot of perception changing for that to be. So recently, that has given me more of a reminder that I have been refining myself is feeling all this chaotic energy and not responding in a negative manner per se, but finding the solutions almost instantly to what we need to do because of whatever chaotic situation it is that is creating the chaotic energy, or just waking up feeling it. Like I've felt anxiety in the past month that I haven't had to feel anxiety for a long time because of practicing of transmuting anxiety for so long, which is going to get into the next round actually, which is tools. But that is what's reminded me that I have been refining myself, and that all these things that we talk about and putting work in actually do pay off. We can reflect on that, and reflecting in these manners and giving ourself that basically compliments in a way without even saying it, because you're reflecting on how well you've changed so far. Do it as often as you can and as you need, because they will give you that sense of accomplishment and reasons why you do it in the first place, because it's not easy. It never will be easy. Growth takes work, and that's it's just a part of it, but the reward is amazing. Um, so the next round, I'd like to just talk about tools, ways to utilize tools to help refine themselves. Like for instance, me, meditation is a portion of a tool that I utilize a lot and have been for years. That is something that I did stop having anxiety for. I mean, it doesn't happen very often anymore, but for years I had a lot of anxiety for a long time, and nothing worked. Anything that I did take was just temporarily, and it was just load me up with chemicals that I didn't want to have in my body in the first place. I was talking to somebody on a simple chat that it was a gaming chat, and I needed to get off because anxiety, and he actually recommended meditation. So I started looking at meditation, and within, I would say, a couple weeks of that moment, my anxiety started fading away due to just full on going into meditation. Um, and it's helped me tremendously. So that is one of my resorts to anything. I am Chris's Crystals or Crystal Chris on TikTok, so I do collect a lot of crystals. I utilize them for a lot of different things, but a lot of that is just a big hobby of mine because I have a lot of minerals that I don't utilize for any practice at all. Um, but a lot of people use crystals for lots of many different things to help refine them throughout their journey, and so have I. I personally have faded away from using them as much as I used to, but they're still in my daily practice, to be honest. So, Vinny, I'd like to start with you and just talk about tools that we utilize to help refine ourselves. All right, thank you. Are you with us, Vinny? Well, we'll move on to Sarah. Um, Sarah, we're talking about tools and how we utilize tools.
I think some of the best tools that we have are already within us. They don't even require meditation. The best tool that anybody can have for navigating this world is how to set up healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries with those around you, healthy boundaries with those when you go out in the world, and ensuring that those boundaries aren't crossed. But boundaries are difficult to set up because most people think of them as, you tell people not to do this and they just don't do that. But that's not really how this world works, and that's not how boundaries work. You set up boundaries, conditions that you are not comfortable dealing with, and when somebody crosses that boundary, you don't wait for them to move, you move. So if you're in a space with somebody that's violating your personal boundary, you get up and you leave, or you excuse yourself from that situation, or move as far away from them as you can at that moment. And that's one of the most important tools. Another tool is knowing your morals and ethics and writing them down, keeping them handy so that you don't violate them and you understand them well enough to understand every choice you make and the consequences that come along with that. Certainly, meditation is another tool. Group chat like these ones here, another great tool. There are many tools that we can use. We can use herbs, we can use crystals. There are so many out there. But I think for me, the most important tools are boundaries, ethics, and morals.
I agree. They, um, the boundaries, especially, and understanding that our boundaries can inflict other boundaries, and probably the best way in the moment is to just excuse yourself for that moment because it is momentarily. That doesn't mean that it's not a safe place. It's just in that moment. It's our best benefit to just go away. That is sometimes the hardest thing to do. Um, Realistically, that is really difficult, and that's a big practice. Um, a lot of people that have, let's say, just anger when it comes to fighting. It's harder not to fight in those moments than it is to fight itself, until you've achieved over that emotion that builds up. So I agree.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It is very hard to not act in that moment, especially if you're emotional. And let's face it, that's why 90% of us have boundaries, is because we have an emotional connection or we're triggered by something. It's hard to disengage in that moment because your body wants to engage. You feel that anger, you feel that fear, or you just feel very passionate about something. And often that leads to unfavorable consequences. Where if you just took a step back, just went in the bathroom if you needed to calm down and gain composure, that would solve a lot of issues just in general with groups of people, because we all have and experience these emotions on a daily basis, and they are very difficult to navigate. Nobody really teaches us how to do it. It's kind of like we're here and we kind of have to learn how to navigate them ourselves. And there's not a book, because we all experience them differently. Certainly there are psychology books that you can read, but they don't apply to everybody because everybody has a different methodology of thinking. So boundaries are incredibly important.
I agree. Thank you. Innovision, would you like to talk about just tools that you've utilized to, and I agree that with Sarah about the inner, the tools are within us. We use tools to guide us on the outer, but all the work is within us. But I'm sorry, Innovision, go ahead.
I'd like to roll it back to Vinny real quick, if you don't mind.
Vinny, are you with us? I'll remember to check on him in between each person, just in case. He did work all day, so he might have dozed off.
Intuition. I invite everyone here on the panel, including the host, to chime in with an answer. It is a riddle of sorts. Anyone in the comments to come on back. I have no feet to dance. I have no eyes to see. I have no life to live or die. But yet I do all three. What am I?
Can you say it one more time?
I have no feet to dance. I have no eyes to see. I have no life to live or die. But yet I do all three. What am I?
Thank you. Oh. Honestly, the first thing that came to mind for me is a photon. um, just excited that he's getting ready to go through this whole process of things that we've already been through. But that's the first thing that came to my mind. Um, anybody, anybody can try to chime in on this and answer. You just flash your mic. Go ahead, Sarah.
Fire. That's the first thing that came to my mind.
Time.
Did you say time?
Yeah.
Okay. I think, do you mean like the stretch in space and time, or are we talking about the herb? I'm just joking.
Funny thing is, all answers are accepted as your truth. In the heart of refinement, it is fire. Thank you, Sarah Lynn. Authenticity would ring a bell. With love, I yield.
Thank you, brother. Heather, would you like to discuss just tools that you've utilized to help with your refinement?
Yeah, I started with herbs. Um, and then I moved on to crystals. My house is like a crystal cave now. Um, but some of the most helpful things I would say would be grounding. So when I'm just not flowing properly, or I'm getting upset, or I'm getting agitated, or things just aren't flowing like I think they should be flowing, I'll go ground, which helps immensely move the energy out and bring in the new. Another thing that I've done that has been extremely helpful is controlled breathing. So when we're talking about like meditation and stuff, that's the number one thing that you need to get down, or that you should get down, that helps, excuse me, with meditation, is the controlled breathing. Another thing that I have used is fasting, which has helped immensely as well. Just process whatever events, emotions, energies I'm feeling, and working through them. It's just helped process all of it. I'd say those are my main ones.
I love it. I can vouch for all of them. They're amazing, and especially like the controlled breathing. Not even in a meditative state of mind, just controlled breathing itself. There's a lot of different methods that naturally produce certain endorphins already, and it can even help with visualization and meditation. So that's amazing. Different mudras work really well as well. We have different electrical points within our bodies, and there's people that aren't even spiritual that utilize those practices. So, at least that I'm not familiar that they are. Like if you ever watch Elon Musk in a interview, he will hold his fingers to his thumbs a certain way, and I'm pretty sure I've heard him speak about certain things about it, and it's more of just a brainwave function for him on a neural path. But it's the same function when we meditate. It can help activate certain things that help us visualize. It's amazing. Nature has like always been my key, and that it has a big part of grounding. I grew up on a lake. Very seldom do I wear shoes, so it naturally happened. I used to resort before I was aware of grounding, just being in nature itself, because that does create great ionic exchanges, certain things that create natural responses that create serotonin levels. It's all through a process, of course, but it's all healthy manners. It helps. It's amazing. Those exchanges happen naturally everywhere we go. So I live in a city. I'm around a lot of times people are on just the first reaction they get, just another day, and that's because that's what it's kind of like around in a city. But when you go to nature and you ask the same question, it's usually a reaction to today's beautiful, it's amazing, I love it out here kind of situation. And that's those natural endorphins coming out into that action of that response. It's amazing. So grounding is awesome, and when you're aware of it, you feel it. It's very relieving. For some people, it's a spa date. So thank you, Heather. Philip, would you like to utilize or talk about tools? I know you have a lot of dogs and they bring you a lot of joy, so that could be a tool as well. So, much love, brother.
I just got a bit of noise going on at the moment. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. I'll go ahead and ask Vinny and see if he's up and at him or if he's in the astral planes right now. Vinny, are you with us? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead, Philip.
The chopper has passed. I use my voice. As I said, I've been married for over 10 years and I talk to my wife a lot about things. And I know she's not really listening most of the time, but I'm listening to myself. And it's much better than just talking to myself in my head. But yeah, I go through scenarios and possible outcomes of situations and things like that, you know. And I also talk a lot about spirituality. Not really with my wife, more at my wife. But yeah, that's why, I've joined on the social media platform and yeah.
Hey, I appreciate that. I do the same thing. I talk to well, I mean, she's spiritual. Don't get me wrong. We have great spiritual discussions. We see a lot eye to eye, honestly. So it makes it a lot easier. Um, and she actually wants to come to a lot of these uh, platforms that I go to, or just lives that I go to. But her sleeping schedule, she's asleep right now, so she just can't make it to them. And she's really bashful. So her just speaking to me took a lot to open up to about it. And it was mainly only because I resonated with a lot of that we talked about. And it's a lot of things I might have mentioned first. So it's just, it's a work in progress. So
Yeah. Yeah, and you find that balance, like you said, it's not always going to be aligned with times or days and stuff like that, but you find that balance to share that. And I talk too much is my problem.
I've been there. Uh, I feel like I start rambling and I'm like, how, what? I feel like 10 minutes just went by.
But it is my strength too. Some people might not know, but I was on TikTok for about 9 months, co-hosting a spoken English group, volunteering every night for over 2 hours. So yeah, I've got a lot of experience speaking on TikTok lives.
I didn't know that. That's awesome. That's really awesome.
If people would like to speak and like to talk like I do, there are a lot of people out there that want to practice their spoken English. Yeah, it's a great win-win situation.
Good deal. Do you still do that?
No, well, they kind of don't use TikTok in Nepal anymore, but there are other places like the Philippines where people, Indonesia, and people want to practice spoken English, and even South Africa. There's people that want to join in English lives and listen and practice their spoken English because it is a skill. So yeah. You got your written, which I'm no good at, or your reading, same, no good at. But my spoken English is quite remarkable. Thank you.
It is. It definitely is.
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you for letting me join the live and share.
No, I appreciate you, Philip. I always have. So, thank you for being here. Fire Ash, or Ash, would you like to address the topic as far as tools and how we utilize tools and what tools you've utilized and still do and so on and so forth? So, thank you.
Whew. Yeah. First, you step back to Sarah. I appreciate immensely what Sarah said, and that reminder of how truly harsh things can be. And yeah, it's one of the things that I truly do appreciate about her, is how she can cut straight to it. Anyway, just wanted to say thank you for that one. And I love the flame. That was beautiful. That one hit in the Phoenix. All right. So current tools. Another going down the line there, Philip, in regards to communication, that is a big tool for me right now. Extremely big. And it's critical in processes for me. So communication is one that is staying in my high level of awareness. Working on that, working on forming my sentences and how I communicate them for others and not just spouting them out. That's a big one for me. But a top priority for me is the movement factor. It's like a channeling, and that you can literally past life regress, however you choose to do it. Like, it's connected in with everyone. Of course, we all are, because we are the all. But the point is that as far back as we can go anywhere, dance has been a part of the people. And it's a movement. Now they're looking at the aspects of the fact that cats, dogs, other animals that do experience high and extreme intense situations, how do they alleviate the stress better than we do? And what are they doing differently than us as a more complex species? And recognizing that the amount of sedentary, literally society-bred sedentary habits have been bred into us. Told, no, don't fidget, that's rude, that's improper, don't move like that, sit still, keep your hands down, right? All the things that we were taught are now being brought to our awareness that, oh, these were natural things that we were doing to alleviate stress from our systems instead of storing it in our systems. And that's a big thing. Like, I have to transmute all the time. And that's something that I've talked about before in the past. It's not something I focus on. It's not something I'm going to give a lot of time to. But I will acknowledge, just for the sake of understanding, I've had to transmute through the whole diagnosis of the fibromyalgia that I went through. And my entire journey ever since then, and healing and what I'm doing to go through it, transmuting's been one of my big tools in that entire process. And I'm having to look at, realistically, how much stress am I putting on my system in transmuting things that maybe I should just be releasing in a different way other than transmuting it. So I'm actually having to kind of more go into the in-depth analysis and really look at it from the different perspectives that I can. And communicate with those that I do care about and trust, and, talk to them. See it from different perspectives through, their opinions as well. Yep, that's what I got on that right now. But yeah, so for me, pretty much working on releasing more through motion, communication, vibration. I'm like in like this whole self-analysis mode where I'm going through everything very critically to see what actually remains on this side of things and what needs to just be let go of. But I'm also an INFJA, so yeah.
Thank you, Ash. I mean, you brought up some things that are very important, honestly. Communication, it's key for any relationship. It doesn't mean an intimate relationship, any relationship. If we don't communicate, it's typically can be an unhealthy relationship and not even know it for the other person at that point. And eliminating stress, the way you talked about that, that's extremely important. Not building up, not allowing that energy to build up. For me, when I was younger, just buying a punching bag was a big, it was a huge thing for me at the time. I needed a way to eliminate stress, and I had to do it in a physical action at that time because I didn't learn how to do it energetically. And it helped me tremendously. It was a way that I removed anger that I had after my mom passed. And it, I needed it. I'm glad that I had it because I had enough self-representation or analyzation of myself to know that my actions were creating a butterfly effect, and I needed to do something about it. So it was actually recommended by a friend that was a Taekwondo instructor, and he actually taught me a lot about Taekwondo and stuff like that too. So it actually gained a really healthy relationship with a friend for years. Um, so thank you, Ash. I appreciate it. We're actually getting down to the end of the live where we just kind of go through a round of final thoughts. I'm gonna see if Vinny has any final thoughts. We don't forget to give yourself a shout out or anything or anybody else that you want to give a shout out to. It doesn't have to be on TikTok. It can be any platform that you do. If it's something for finances, whatever it might be, please. We like to spread this here, especially when it comes to small businesses. Small businesses, they really, it's a really nice market to have within other small businesses. So, I personally, we sell crystals, and we have for, I guess we're going on 3 years now. I've been digging for crystals as a hobby for 6 years, and it's something I really enjoy. We started selling mainly to help pay for our hobby, and it made it to where our collection has gotten really big, and that's just a whole nother hobby. So, um, I do have a bio, or in my bio, we have our website. I will be going live. I've actually started setting some of that up this weekend. I got a new desk that I put together, and we rearranged the living room to where the half of the living room will be set up for our lives and for our inventory, which it already has been, but most of our inventory for our Rock and Gym Mineral shows stay in totes already wrapped up, and we don't have another one for 6 months, so they're all on inventory shelves now, so it's starting to fill up pretty quick. So, but anyways, enough about me. I'm gonna ask Vinny if he's still with us. If not, much love, Vinny. Um, he's somebody that he's been here, very consistent at these lives on Sunday. It's somebody I met well over a year ago. It was before I even met the spiritual community, to be honest. It was just on a live, and he decided to do a live after that, and we talked for a couple hours, and we've just been talking on and off ever since. But he's an amazing guy. So I'm gonna do a little shout out for him on that. He does poetry, great poetry. Check out his live. Give him a follow. He is within this spiritual community, and has a lot of clairvoyance. So it's a great guy. All right, Sarah, if you could give us your final thoughts for tonight, and don't forget to give a shout out for what you do. It's amazing. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I really like Vinny. I think the most important thing is just to trust yourself, trust what's right for you, and understand that you may not always make the best choice, but it's always the right choice. That's how you learn. That's how you grow. That's pretty much my final thoughts. I do lots of stuff here on TikTok. I do live on Tuesday nights at about 9 o'clock p.m. East or Central Standard Time. I almost said Eastern. Obviously, I don't know where I live. I also do readings, past life regressions, all those fun things. I do them on some of my lives, and I also do them by appointment and private session.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. I can vouch. I've sat in on quite a few of yours. I've even ghost listened. I do that a lot because not not a lot, but there's times where I'm just scrolling and it just happen to be listening and end up listening for 15, 20 minutes or so. So you do. Yeah, I call it ghost listening because that's it's usually when I'm like laying down, getting ready to go to bed, and I don't want to start engaging because it'll literally keep me up all night. So it's a practice that I had to actually start doing, and it's really hard not to get in there whenever I am doing that. So usually, like when I'm getting ready to go to sleep, I'll still have TikTok on, and I'll just be kind of ghost listening before I go to sleep. But anyways, Innovision, can you give your final thoughts and any shout out you would like to give? Much love.
When you're rocking Crystal Show, is something I look forward to. I know there's a lot of creators here that host their own lives, and they are very intuitive, and I recommend everyone here to do what you do best and to be better. Final thoughts for this evening would be to just Stay open. Be open. Don't close off. Know that where you are now is not where you'll be there. And when we get there, no one will say, I told you so. With love, always, respect, with gratitude and honor for all. Thank you for being here.
Much love, brother. If you can, just wait a moment. I'm gonna go down, but before Fire Ash talks, I'll let you go ahead and talk about self refinement and so on and so forth. Heather, if you could, just maybe some final thoughts on tonight, and if there's something like if you do lives or if you want to promote anybody that you recommend a live, that just feel free, please.
I just wanted to say that I'm honored and happy to have met all of you and been invited into this space. And that's it. I'm just happy to be part of it. That's it.
Thank you. I'm happy you came, and I'm happy you're expressing yourself. It's nice because the things that you've expressed tonight are amazing. So keep doing that. It's beautiful. I just want to say that. Philip, would you like to give some final thoughts for tonight? Any shout outs?
Oh, yeah, exactly the same. How's that? It's great to be included in to have that sense or the feeling of inclusion. So yeah, much gratitude.
Same here. You always have you always have a positive manner about you, and I love that. There's times that, like in the chats, I'm cracking up because you have great jokes too here and there. They're just so it's amazing. I appreciate that. And sometimes that's what a live needs to raise that vibration is some laughs. So thank you. Have a just wanted to see if you wanted to talk about maybe some self refinement that you've had or awareness of self refinement. We talked about tools that we've utilized. We've talked about recent engagements that we've had that have gave us an alignment on our own self refinement. So anything you would like to talk about for a few moments? We are kind of closing down, but I would like you to have the opportunity.
Hi.
Hi,
Thank you. Hi, sweetie.
how are you?
I'm okay. Thank you, Bub. Thanks for asking. I'm so sorry I missed it. I really am apologetic. I thought that was, I mean, by the way, this topic is so amazing. I'm not going to break it down to like whatever. I hope it's recorded. I would love to listen to your guys' brains and how you articulated how that feels for you. Self-refinement. I mean, I guess that was redundant, the same idea. When it comes to being spiritual and having to energetically, I don't know if it's fighting, but sitting in a space where you're getting kind of pulled between two different quantums, it gets a little draining at times. Especially as a medium for me. I can only speak for myself. So as a medium, it gets a little difficult. And I always had that. So refining myself was weird because I didn't know like if it was me or if it was the person that I was, you know what I mean? I don't know, whatever. So I know that for a fact. I really hope that you guys recorded it. I would love to learn.
Yeah, actually, you can. It'll be within a week. It'll be uploaded to our YouTube. It's
Cool.
just the
Yeah.
Spiritual Talk 369, so you can check it out.
Yeah, so Chris, like, but with the spiritual refinement, it is hard, and there is a juxtaposed to it. As a psychic medium, and I didn't even know what my gifts were when I was a kid, but you know, obviously later on, and I'm friends with some of the people that are up. Yeah, most of the people that are up here, I'm actually like close with, and that's like a really hard space, and like I don't think a lot of people understand what it's like when you go through that, and then when you sit in this space and you accept it when you're younger, and then you have to go, okay, I got to figure this out, and then you're not, when you were like the cool person, and then you're no longer the cool person because you're like, oh my god, I have some boundaries, okay, you know, and then like all the stuff that you ever hung out with, like you just have to make changes because their juxtaposed position on things don't no longer sit with the same things that you sit with. And I don't know, I know that there's one person up here that we've had that conversation about this, and it's weird when it happens. It's weird when you're like, you know what, my job here is not to kowtow to your space. My job here is to elevate the vibration, and it's just like you kind of. So the self-refinement could be for anything. You could like be like, oh yeah, I worked out, did 17 sit-ups. But then if you went with self-refinement in the spiritual realm, like it's a way heavier task in my thought. And I apologize, I came in late, sweetheart, so I'm sorry.
You're perfectly fine. What's something recent that, like a recent emotion that you've had that gave you that self-refinement vision, I should say. For instance, like for me, I have had some chaotic emotion in the past few weeks that I haven't responded to, but also was able to transmute. So it gave me it gave me a reminder that I've had this self refinement in the path that I've been, that I've been going, and what I've
Can
seen.
you explain to me what self-refinement means to you?
So like self
Like,
refinement.
I really know what I'm doing now, kiddos. Let's go. Like
I mean,
that.
the basics of self refinement is
Yeah.
like, for instance, it's really a process of growing closer to the divine, but it's going to be more of that's going to be on an individual level to ourselves. So what we perceive as to be enlightenment or shed negativity, all these different tools or steps that we take to
Sure.
refine ourselves spiritually and or physically.
There's something that I thought about self-refining myself in the past couple of weeks. My dog's drank too much water, excuse him. You know, here, I guess, I don't know, I guess I'm a little different because I've been working in this space for a long time, but I've also been working in finance for a really long time. And when I think about this self-refinement, like, could I have acted differently in certain situations? I think that that's what I'm picking up from this story. And then how could I have handled it better for like a better outcome? There are so many beautiful moments, Crystal Chris, that I will sit there and I won't say anything. And there's sometimes when I just don't believe with love, like when I psychoanalyze the space, that I believe that that space makes any sense, and then I believe it could be with love infiltrated by people who are looking to just be like a part of something, which is super cool to be a part of anything. So like, I don't know, I'm trying my best. So let me start over. Self-refinement. I have had a moment in the past 3 weeks where I no longer engage with people that I don't believe with love that have done the same amount of work that I have to help raise the vibration of myself and or other, including themselves, and other people. And so I have taken a step back from that role. And I work more with just specifically my company. And it, because it's easy on social media, in my personal opinion, for people to not necessarily 100% care of the outcome of their actions. I'm not being like snarky. I'm like,
No,
literally, that's like,
that's
yeah,
true.
like, so I guess the self-refinement was like me not getting like really involved. Like, let's go to meet at the, you know, let's go buy the tires, you know,
Yeah.
like, no, yeah, no.
It
But
sounds like you've experienced some detachment then, and which is
I have,
that's definitely a big part of
yes,
refining. You know, a detachment, attachment, anything that it's refining ourselves in that moment, and it's our perception and our discernment if it's the right way. You know.
yes, sir. And one last thing though. So until you have like a grounding space, like how you like are with like stone, so like earth, right? Let's just say that. Um, until you have a grounding space, like all the other stuff can continue to make you feel ungrounded, or you allow them to make you feel ungrounded. And so then when you like are watching all these things and it kind of seems slightly chaotic, you know, with love, most likely isn't, but and then you're watching it happen and you're like, I might not be showing who I am actually. I might just be like really irritated because of what I'm seeing in these abnormal like situations that I really don't believe in their cognitive or emotional expressions at this point. Like I don't believe that that's fair for stuff that they're saying and whatever. So, but the self refinement was like, okay, well, not everybody is on the same level as I am, and some people are, excuse me, everyone has different eyes than I do. So they're in different levels than I am as well. So for me, it just was like, you know, it started getting irritating. I didn't really like it. So the self refinement would be I needed to come back to center and realize that we all have different set of eyes. But I also am capable of saying, I don't really want to hang out with you. You know, because sometimes you get wrapped up in this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, oh my God, like, don't they like me? Like, why don't they like me? Like, you don't, whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
No,
I
I
don't
do.
know.
I do understand.
Yeah, right. Okay.
It's.
Well, that's my space. I don't know.
I appreciate it. Do you
I
have?
appreciate it too.
We are on final thoughts. Do you have any?
Yeah.
Just some final thoughts for tonight for us?
You know, the world has been so cool lately in this space where everything is just kind of like going to a movie theater and you just keep seeing stuff. Like the curtains keep opening. And so I would say, please do yourself a favor and when you wake up in the morning, just try to find something, should you be having a minute, to smile and mean it. Please be safe and smile and be kind to yourself. There's a lot of energies that are happening where you can hyperly get down a rabbit hole that I don't really know a lot of people want to go down. So just be kind to yourself, and you know, you need to project onto stuff that's happening, and it's easy to project on this TikTok thing. You know, get a notebook for the fucking sake, and then write it out. You know, and then get that out that way. But it seems like with love that, you know, the people that you guys are listening to right now, like Chris and, you know, I think Fire Ash started it as well, and a Vision and all these cats, like they're amazing people. So like those are people that you totally want to, you know, snuggle next to. So, you know, you're in good hands. Smile and mean it. Try your best to, and just be kind to yourself. It's no joke, because it's going to be crazy until like at least the 18th. Just like it's just like flipping the mattress. It's just you got to get used to flipping the mattress being flipped is really what happened. I'm trying my best to be normal. It's not happening with love.
Thank you. I appreciate that message.
I appreciate you.
I always have. You're amazing.
I love you too.
Chris.
Yes.
She did have a question specifically for Envision about something. I don't remember if it was a dream or what it was, but if you would go ahead and give her the space.
Yeah, I
Okay,
don't know
cool.
what this is about, but go ahead. Was it Ohm? Ohm had a question?
Yeah, I think
Oh,
so.
no.
No,
It was a
okay.
movie to look into.
Oh,
But I wanted to chime in and say that, of course, you are appreciated here, and you will get an invite next time we roll. Your expression of observation is incredible, and it is very freeing to hear and refreshing, as always. Thank you for your presence.
You too, Bagito. And I don't really have a question, but I feel like if I had a question, I'd just message you. Is that cool?
Of course,
Okay,
it
I
happens
don't
all
know
the
if
time.
I'm
But I'm gonna
fucking
check out
up
that
here.
movie you recommended and
Oh, which one?
look
I got
into
a
it.
bunch of them.
No, you put it in the comments. I wrote it down. Something about
Oh yeah, this could be a
Archer.
great takeaway. Do you guys want a good takeaway if you just have like whatever? There's this movie. I'm sorry, Chris.
Go ahead. You're good.
There's this movie called oh shit. It's called the Sunset. It's called the Limited. Sunset Limited, and it's with Samuel L. Jackson and Tommy Lee Jones. And Tommy Lee Jones tried to 86 himself. He was having a rough night on a train track, and Samuel L. Jackson just happened to be there, and he like picked him off of the train track and he brought him back to his house. And the whole movie is just them sitting in his house, and they speak about
No spoilers. No spoilers. Okay, no
no,
spoilers.
that's it. But they just speak about. No, I wouldn't. But I'm just telling you, like it's like a one act. I don't know if anyone's in acting. Like I was in acting as a kid. They just. It's the coolest movie. They won so many. There's so many accolades to this movie. It was a long time ago, but it's called the Sunset. Shit, the Sunset something. The Sunset whatever I said. Sunset Limited. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. They're both hard asses. It's just beautiful. It's just a great movie. And it's just really pretty to listen to. They speak about the Bible a lot. It's very religious. It's very spiritual. It's so pretty, you guys. I really liked it. So that's it. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I was speaking about that, but you guys want to jump in onto that frame. Yeah, I'm going to mute myself. Thanks for letting me up here, though. I love you guys. You guys are amazing. I mean, my life wouldn't be the same if I didn't meet you guys for the past 3 years. You guys are beautiful.
right back at you. Fire Ash, would you like to please give us some final thoughts of the night? Any shout outs you'd like to give, of course?
Yeah, it's awesome. So I want to shout out. She brought that up, and now I want to see it because I'm a Sim fan myself. But it made me think of the show my kid actually had me watching called Manifest, and how like there were some interesting enlightening moments in that just kind of were intriguing for me as well. So yeah, it's always good to remember to channel where it flows, guys, wherever it's at. Yeah, it's called Manifest. Is that Netflix? Yeah, Netflix show, right? Yeah. But yeah, go where the channel flows in that. Remember that creativity is also a divine tool, right? And go where it flows. So there's going to be times where you're being channeled to bring it out in music, movies, shows, different art forms. It's going to come out through the arts, dance in different ways. It's the arts of it as well. And I really, really want to take that as my final note of the night in that self-refinement notes, is that it takes a lot of refinement when it comes to art. And any type of artist at any level knows that through their own experience of the process. So remember that you are a very unique, divine work of art. Much love, guys. Thank you for the time in the space.
Thank you, Ash. I love that. We are a unique, divine part of art. I can't even spit it out. I'm still processing it. That's the truth of it, though. Divine can be looked at within the micro and the macro, and every experience and level that we've experienced and created what characteristics that we have and molded within ourselves, and that in itself is art. It's beautiful. Thank you. I want to give a shout out to this is Spiritual Talk 369. We are on a scheduled live every Sunday, possibly change if a holiday or something happens, but that would be posted. But for the most part, every Sunday, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we have wonderful discussions. It's a roundtable, so it's a structured live, but we free flow. We allow questions and answer through the panels and so on and so forth, and it's always beautiful. So, my final thoughts for tonight, as far as one thing that I utilize a lot for self-refinement is setting my intentions, and following through, of course, but setting the intentions even when I go to sleep. So as Owen was talking about finding a way to make you smile, I literally smile every morning when I wake up because I literally ponder on all the things that I'm grateful for as I'm going to sleep. So when I wake up, the first things that I think about is all the things that I love, which instantly puts a smile on my face. And I started practicing that through really stressful times at work, and now it's carried on into a everyday practice, and it's amazing. So just food for thought. If that's not something that you try, give it a shot, because it's helped me tremendously. And we all have things to be grateful for. Sometimes it's harder to pick those things out in our lives, but we all have so many things to be grateful for. So I hope everyone has had a wonderful evening, and don't forget, we'll be here next Sunday. It is possible that there will be some pop-up lives here and there. Those won't necessarily have promos. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but definitely every Sunday. So if you're not following people on the panel, please give them a follow. They're all amazing people. They have so much to share. We grow together. We always have. We always will. As a collective, we grow together and we move together. It's a flow. So much love, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.